What's up, guys? You know what night it is? Wednesday night, off-centered with Dustin, the artist formerly known as the Personal Finance Dad, currently known as Sports Card Dad. And what a great week. We had NFL kickoff. My Buccaneers not only won, but they pretty much ended the season for the Dallas Cowboys. So if you're an Eagles fan or a Giants fan or a Redskins fan, you're welcome. The Saints barely won, but they beat the Falcons.
And how depressing to be a Cowboys fan where literally like week one, your starting quarterback's out half the season. It's just typical Cowboys stuff.
Yeah, I feel bad. Well, the thing is, it's always bad when it's injuries. It's like you underperforming is lousy, but an injury of the top player is always like, man, that is so unfortunate.
Yeah. But it's not as if Dak was lighting it up and then he got injured. He was struggling really badly and then he got injured.
And then, but it's like struggling for one game is one loss because you could play great the next game. Now you're struggling and you're out for 6 to 8 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, but you're right. So the Falcons, I was actually at the sports bar feeling really lousy through 3 quarters. The first time ever that the Saints have come back from 16 points down in the fourth quarter. They were like 0-280 leading into Sunday, and then they squeaked by the Falcons. So it's feeling magical. It's feeling magical. And now this week we've got the Bucks. I'm going to be in New Orleans for the game. I'm heading down there Saturday to the Bayou. I don't know, though. I don't feel great about it, honestly. I feel like Tom Brady hasn't beat us in the regular season yet in 2 seasons. And I just feel like, especially if this is his last season, he's going to be that much more motivated to get this win. So I don't have lots of confidence. I think that he's kind of on this, like, this is my last time and I need to make the most of it. And so I expect them to show up.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, I don't know what happened. The first half looked like the Saints, like Jameis Winston had 5 yards passing or something atrocious. And then the Falcons just were the Falcons. There should be a meme of Tom Brady watching the Saints Falcons game, just with the little captions in the fourth quarter being like, wait for it. It just says, wait for it. And then the Falcons just choked, just like in the Super Bowl.
Well, so we had a bunch of like offensive line miscommunication stuff where we've got like a free blitzer. Jameis got sacked 4 times, I think all in the first half. It was a lot of, I'm hoping it's first game jitters or whatever. And that's really what happened, because it cannot happen this week against the Bucks pass rush. Cannot happen.
And I was going to say the secondary showed up for the Bucks, which is a nice surprise. Yeah. But anyway, we could talk football all day long because it's our 2 teams playing on Sunday. We're very excited about that. But we have an amazing guest that we're going to bring on very shortly. Just want to say hi to a couple of you guys here.
Yeah.
We have Jay in the house. Great to see you, Jay. Troy's Collectibles. Awesome that you can join us. And AJ, always good morning from Japan. And then one more week, or I guess another week and a half, and you'll be here about 2-hour drive from me. I live in LA, so you'll be just a couple hours south. That is amazing. Welcome back to the US. Can't wait to welcome you. Brian Sherlin, great to see you. I can't wait for Sunday's game. Mike C, always in the house as well. Brett S, great to see you. And we got Chris in the house. Man, a lot of people in here. Corey in Cream City. I don't even know what Cream City is, but it sounds delicious. Kamikaze Sports Card Hybrid. Brady washed. Is that like when Dak Prescott gets injured, is it like you call it Brady washed, or the Cowboys get done, you call it like Brady washed, like you've been like stamped out, or you've been I don't know what Brady wash means. I'm grabbing at straws here. Ryan, great to see you.
I think he meant that he's clean. He's cleaned up. He cleans up nicely.
Then something me and Tom Brady have in common. Great to see you. We bought 2.
We bought 2. Web of 2.
Web of 2. Remember when you said Raleigh Al? You're like Raleigh AI.
Raleigh AI. I've been calling Al AI since the beginning.
I'm like, how do you get? I mean, like.
What do you mean, how do you get it? It's an AI.
It's an L, but I understand. But like, why is your default artificial intelligence versus just the name Al? Why is that your default? Like, you know what I mean? Isn't that a more common thing than artificial intelligence? Or are you in that world where you're just studying AI?
Anyway.
Great to see you, Justin.
Brett, I did see that to where, yes, the Saints were going to take Mahomes. We ended up getting Marshawn Lattimore, so thank God it didn't just go to a wasteful pick. Lattimore's been great, but yeah, could you imagine? I think that Sean Payton would still be coaching the Saints if they had gotten Mahomes.
For sure. Okay, well, look, we want to honor our guest time, and we want to honor your time, and we want to bring Brian on right now because there's a lot to talk about. His company's been in the news. He's been in the news recently, and he's one of the most knowledgeable guys in the hobby because he does this every day. He has been doing this for a long time, and he's in those rooms behind closed doors, hearing the phone calls, part of the discussion. So if anyone knows what's going on in the hobby and where it's headed, it would be this guy. So let's bring him on. Brian Gray, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey guys, how are you? Happy to be here. I'm so used to watching on the screen, and now I get to be on the screen. That's fun. That's fun. You guys do a great job.
Awesome. And then you get to rewatch this tomorrow, so then you can then look at yourself being on the screen, and that's the coolest thing.
Probably won't do that, but yeah. I'm doing it now.
Just visit it for a second, just to hit the thumbs up, and that helps the algorithm, and then that's it. Then you can hop off. But let's start off with the hot topic, which is the recent discussions from on Twitter with you and Nat Turner regarding the authenticity of your autographs. That's what everyone's been talking about and has been seeing. So, yeah, I mean, what I guess just tell us what exactly happened and reassure us of the authenticity of any of the Leafs.
Well, and then also too, was it a one-off thing? Is it was it in jest? Like, I was trying to understand the tweets of like with Nat, Ken Golden's in there. Is it like you guys are just messing around or what? Like it's hard to tell when it's just on Twitter.
Yeah, what's the context?
No doubt about it. Well, first off, listen, Nat's a great dude. I never really met him until the National. We talked on the phone, but it was good to meet him. I hold PSA in high regard. I have no problem with him. Generally, I don't have a problem with him, but I think in this case we had a couple of instances where just one-off autographs the grading department kicked, and it was just weird because these weren't cards submitted to PSA DNA; these were cards that went in to be graded, and I think one was an Al Pacino, which Beckett and one of my employees witnessed the Al Pacino signings. Both of them we did, so we know they're real. Beckett was there; they started all the memorabilia that was done. They saw my sticker sign. And then there was another oddball one. And then the Pele thing happened. I think it was Messi. And when Messi happened, I was furious because, again, Beckett witnessed, which, again, most of the Messi stuff out there, Beckett has not witnessed. I think my stuff is the only stuff that was actually witnessed by an authenticator. Everything else goes through other groups like Icons or whoever that has his rights there. So we were frustrated already because, again, I had to educate them on Messi. I sent them probably 5 slabs that were PSA slab that were fake Messi, or I won't say fake Messis, but they were questionable Messis. And so I was frustrated because I was like, you guys don't get it. If you're comparing my Messis to some other Messis that aren't good, I can see why you're not sure about mine. Mine are the good ones. And they ended up slabbing the Pacino and the Messi, no problem, once it kind of moved along and they realized that. And if people started to discuss on these YouTube channels Messi autographs. I've seen stories on that. I don't really care about talking about other companies' products. I'm more focused on mine, but ours were 100% real. Then what happened about a week, I guess it's been a few weeks now, is a Pele printing plate from 2016. They didn't reject it. All of these cards, they never failed one of them. So they never said any of them were fake. What they did is say inconclusive. Now, if it were today, Pele, I totally get. Pele is shaky now. If you see our recent autographs on Pele, they're getting shaky. And it's a lot like Bobby Jones after his stroke. You can see the difference in his autograph. Pele is struggling, especially on stickers because they're so small. When he signs a jersey, it's really nice. But when he signs those little stickers, you can see he's having some control issues. And we're working on making a bigger sticker and maybe doing some on-card stuff to address that. What was interesting here when I first looked at it was that I looked at their pop report. And every other Pele autograph from that set that had been presented was passed, except this one printing plate. And I got on the phone with them, and I was just like, listen, guys, this is 100% real. It was witnessed. And they were like, we look at every autograph independently and make a determination. I'm like, hogwash. Now the best part is no one knows this because I haven't revealed it yet, but the person who witnessed our Pele autographs in 2016, PSA DNA. They were there when that sticker was signed. One of their witnesses, Matt Schumann, was in Brazil while that was signed, and PSA witnessed the entire signing. So that's the best ever. Is that in 2016, Beckett didn't exist as an authentication company, And so PSA actually witnessed that sticker. Now, with that being said, listen, it's very hard because everybody's an expert and these are all opinions and no one knows. And so I hate to look and say I think something nefarious is going on, and again, the conversations I've had since then were, I would say, cordial, and we'll really put a lot of thought into these things. But here's where my position is, and this is what I told PSA. And I think Beckett adopts this position generally. If there's a manufacturer rep and warranty on the back, guaranteeing the autograph, and the card is submitted for grading, I believe that card, the authenticity of the autograph should not be called into question unless it is egregiously nefarious, or we call it spurious. Like it's like the pool hosts that have been all wiped off and then redone with number 005 of 150. Like those are all, we know those are bad. We know the legacy pool hosts are just straight up bad from 2001 Fleer Legacy. If they're not cards number 1 through 100, they're bad. Only cards 1 through 100 were real, because I owned card 101 through 799 unsigned when I bought it in the Fleer auction. So I know those cards were never signed. They got signed later when I sold like a big collection of the cards. Someone signed those cards later. So I know for a fact those cards were not signed. So I think they should rely on the manufacturer rep and warranty, because at the end of the day, PSA doesn't guarantee that autograph when you send it to grading. So if they slab an autograph that's not real, they don't give you anything if they're wrong. For example, Shaquille O'Neal autographs from 2014, 15, 16, some of the Lulus, Luka Doncic, Lionel Messi's. There's a number of guys where some autographs are really questionable at best. So if they're not going to guarantee it, if they make a mistake, which they have made, everybody has from time to time.
Sure, yeah.
We didn't even know they were. I mean, I knew the Shaqs were bad the whole time, but like some of this other stuff, we really didn't know. The Shaqs were secretarial. If you look at secretarial, like what you got in the mail back 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you got the same autograph that's on those 14, 15, 16 cards. It's bad. It's clear they were signed by the same person that used to answer his mail. So we knew that one instantly. We knew right away there's an extra bump. No way it's good. Blatantly bad. But these other ones are more questionable, I would say. They're a judgment call.
Brian, just to clarify too, PSA has a grading guarantee, but not an authentication guarantee.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
I didn't know that. All right.
Yes. And they don't guarantee authenticity. And so I made a big stink with them. And I said, well, hold on. If you're going to kick a card because of the autograph, then you're giving the inference to the consumer that if you don't kick the card, the autograph is good. And they said, no. And I said, but how? You're authenticating the autograph, right? And they said, no. I said, but you sent mine back to someone. So are you authenticating it or not? So apparently it depends on, if there's a liability issue, then they're not responsible. But if they're not, there is. But again, listen, at the end of the day, rather than bash PSA, what we want to do is constructively figure out what is the right answer. No company in the industry witnesses every autograph signed. Even if the back of the card says this card was signed in front of a representative, without saying which company, I was in the room alone with a former number 1 draft pick when they signed cards for another company, because I had a relationship with the player, and I was the witness, and I am not related to these companies in any way. I was the only person that saw those cards signed. So when they put on the back of the card, they were witnessed in front of someone, that's hogwash. Yeah, I guess they were, me, but not their representative, as they say on the back of the card. So that's what's hard about this, is we got to figure out as an industry, what is the standard now? Are grading companies going to authenticate autographs when you send it for grading, or are they going to rely on the rep and warranty of the manufacturer? And if you send it to PSA DNA, sure, give an opinion. If you're asking for an autograph evaluation, give an opinion for, I don't care. I mean, I've got great solid support for our contract with the player, number 1. We actually have a contract with every one of these players. So like, for their thesis to be bad, we either have to be blatantly fraudulent, which obviously isn't the case, or they would have to say that the player signed the contract, they brought in an impersonator who looks just like Lionel Messi. The Beckett witness was fooled when they talked about soccer for 5 hours, and his agent comes walking in and out the room. I mean, it's ridiculous. So long term, I think that's where, in all this, what I was trying to say is we've got to figure out an answer long term for how we're going to handle this, because the average person who saw that exchange or discussion came away with the idea the autograph wasn't real. And the funny part is, if you read the first post, it says inconclusive, which just means they did not render an opinion. So it's kind of funny. And again, in this case, they witnessed that exact autograph. And so I find it just mind blowing. So it was more of a banter, I would say. I mean, I didn't expect Nat to reply, but at the end of the day, listen, we stand behind everything we make. It is what it is. I would trust the company with the contract, with the player who had a company witness it over an expert, in quotes, opinion.
All right. So Brian, this reminds me a ton of in 2020, I'm selling on eBay and there are so many, hey, I didn't receive the card. It's the wrong card. There's a lot of like, I did the right thing and there's no evidence, or I did the wrong thing, but I don't think I did, but I don't remember. And I just started recording myself packaging up the card with the card in whatever, the condition it should be, sending it off with the address and everything more for my record, so that if I get accused, I literally have a link of the video. So in an age of cameras on every phone and all that kind of stuff, is it not reasonable to have an athlete set up a camera with a tripod and then autograph every sticker and then show the sheet, and at least that is something? Like, because I feel like as cards go up in value and the super rare ones worth 6 and 7 figures, the idea of one of those not being authentic could be a massive massive flaw in the hobby, or like something, a huge scandal. And so is there like where we could use technology to just do that? Maybe the stickers themselves are numbered, something like that. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here.
I think without putting a Beckett or PSA sticker on a sticker, which is like, I think it's bad enough that we have to use stickers anyway to be effective and efficient. I really wish we didn't have to, but I think making the kind of products we make, we're forced to. And I will say one thing about stickers real quick. Autographs that fade off of cards, which you see that a lot, that never happens on stickers. You'll notice stickers always hold up long term. But if you look at Mike Trout 2009 Bowman Chrome, which is one of the most iconic cards in the hobby now, if you look carefully, a lot of those are starting to fade and they're starting to discolor. And I'm not so sure in 20 years there's going to be autographs on those anymore. Or that I'm not so sure. I'm not saying they won't be, but there's a lot of upper deck cards I've seen where the autograph just disappeared over the years. Like, it's just gone. You look at it, it's like there's no autograph, but if you look under a loop, you'll see the impressions where the autograph was there and it just disappeared. But with that being said, I think, yes, we could use cameras in some cases, and we do in some cases. We'll film little spots with guys, which we're just starting to use those things on social media because we've always been lacking in good social media promotion. We're just starting to really get our muscle there. But I think in the case of Pele, it's very hard because Pele has some health issues, including skin conditions, where like Pele's skin is not ideal. And I don't think he would be very happy if we sat and filmed him. Not that we're going to use it on our social media, but you know what I'm saying? It's a little tricky. But with that being said, we are working on getting a video of Pele saying, hey, all these stickers are real. I did them. We'll have to see if he's able to do that. But again, he's getting old, what have you. But again, all our signings now with the big soccer stars, every one of them is witnessed. Mm-hmm. So we're not taking any chances at all. It's just not worth it. And when we don't witness it, or Beckett doesn't witness it, for example, the agent will have the player sign a sworn affidavit, and the agent usually assigns a witness to sit with the player while he does it, and that person signs a sworn affidavit. So, like, we can only go so far as saying, if Dr. J says, I signed those autographs, and they look just like Dr. J autographs, like at some point, if him and a witness both sign sworn affidavits, we kind of have to roll with that. And that standard has been pretty good because every time a player says, I didn't sign that, people on Twitter start saying, oh my God, the player said he didn't sign it. And I know for a fact, Damian Lillard once said that I had a photo that he didn't sign. And then when I saw Damian, I said, hey, you signed this when it was blank. We printed a picture over it. And he goes, oh crap, that is what you did. I was like, well, on Twitter, you said it was fake. And I represented Damian at the time I did it because I ran out of photos of the signing. So I said, I'm signing white sheets and I printed the pictures over later. So again, even a player can't be fully reliable. So autographs are going to be tricky in that way. But I do like the idea of us, if we're already doing it for social media purposes, why not memorialize it? I don't think you can memorialize every autograph easily, especially when Kenny Pickett signs 10,000 autographs. I don't think that's practical. And honestly, when Kenny signs, we don't sit with him because it's so many autographs. So Kenny will have a sworn affidavit along with a witness assigned by the agent.
So, okay. Like if you have a witness, I think the last thing I'll say on that is body cam on the witness and the video is internal or it's sent to PSA, BGS, and SGC and whatever, be like, here's the video in case y'all have any questions. This is internal use only, just for any questions regarding the authenticity. But
well, you know what's funny? They won't look at that kind of. They don't care. Like we've talked about that, and PSA nor Beckett, I'll say nor Beckett nor JSA, they do not consider any photo or video proof because it would be easy to manipulate that. I've seen plenty of the biggest scam artists in the history of autographs who sell fake autographs on eBay every day in the celebrity category. They have photos with and photos signing. But again, how hard is it to print the same photo and place it? These crooks are pretty good. They're not just total morons. So even photographic proof is garbage. And honestly, PSA, if you've ever submitted something, they want to see nothing. They don't care. They're not going to look at any photographic proof, any video proof. They want to look at the autograph independent. And again, I'm friends with the Beckett authenticators. We used to go to San Diego Comic-Con and get autographs. We'd sit outside Hotel Palomar and get the cast of Game of Thrones. But, you know, I used to get Norman Reedus from Walking Dead. And Norman Reedus, we used to say boom. Because every time Norman would sign, he just put a check mark and go boom, boom, boom. He made you think he was signing 50 photos for you, which he did, but they were all check marks. So even though Beckett witnessed me getting those, they wouldn't even put a cert on it because they were like, that's crap. We can't put a cert on something that looks like that because independent of everything else, the autograph has to stand on its own merits. So even when they witnessed it, there's plenty of stuff they witnessed that they wouldn't cert if it was in an informal setting because the item couldn't stand up on its own merit.
What's your take on I saw the Luka's mom thing is always did Luka Doncic sign those autographs? I think I've heard have you been asked this before? Do you have a take on that as to whether or not you think that's his mom signing or him signing?
Well, I mean, the mom thing, I don't know where the mom thing ever came from. I don't think anyone has seen a handwriting sample from his mom to really gather that.
Right.
Everyone knows he's close with his mom. But again, I was at the National and I watched a player representative for fun. He signed a player's name for me perfectly. And he did it like 20 times on a sheet of paper. And he said, this player's rookie year, I signed every piece of mail and everyone was perfect. And it's like, I looked at it and I was like, holy crap. I'm somewhat of an autograph authenticator myself. I mean, I have some level of expertise. I would have 100% been fooled. It's that good. And probably because the player has signed so few real autographs that the fake ones are what we've all seen so many times. We think that's the real autograph. So at this stage, you got to throw everything out the window you think you know. And I think that's what's hard about this. We have no clue who signed what. I think there are some inconsistencies in the slant in the signatures. There is, and some of the spacing stuff. There are some inconsistencies. But the fact is, as long as the player says, I did it, I don't know that it doesn't become real. And this sounds so crazy. Like, does it really become real? But like, if the player says I signed it, for everyone else, for all intents and purposes, it becomes real even if it's not. Because I know that Shaq took the position on the autographs of his that I do not believe are real. He took the position of those are real. So when he said they're real, do they become real or real enough?
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. It's such a hairy thing. And that's why certified autographs from manufacturers, assuming we do our job well, that's critical. Because most other autographs you're never, ever, ever going to really know unless you were there. But a manufacturer autograph gives you the best chance of having an authentic autograph. And I believe all the manufacturers seriously do their best to ensure that. I know that every one of my competitors has kicked autographs we've gotten in the mail that we didn't like. I've caught kids trying to photocopy sticker sheets, like color copy them. I've caught kids having his girlfriend inscribe a card, like for the old Trinity sets, and then the player would sign them. And I look at his handwriting on the affidavit. It doesn't match the inscription. He forms the letters all different. So we actually pay a ton of attention because we know that the core of the business is if we say something's game used, we got to make every effort to make sure it is. And if we say something is signed, it damn sure better have been signed by the person who we say signed it. That's tantamount to the business because game used and autographs are such a critical part of the industry. That's one place we cannot fail. Maybe we make something, all the cards are a little off center. That sucks. Autographs and game use must be 100% lockdown, smackdown, on the money, perfect. Or we got a problem as an industry because we're not being straight up with our customers, and that's tantamount.
Let's shift over. Speaking of the industry summit is in 2 weeks, if I have that right. Are you there? Are you speaking? Are you involved? How involved are you? And then How do you think it's going to be different this year compared to last, with everything that's all the changes, all the things going on?
Well, I the last 4 or 5 years, I've been the closing speaker every year. And they used to tell me they did it because they wanted people to stay. And at least, even if you don't like what I say, I'm going to say it with some oomph. And I'm going to make you at least think about, is there a possibility that you're not exactly seeing every possibility? Last year my speech was about pivoting. And it was about, and I think I showed like the Ross scene from Friends where they're going up the stairs with a cat, pivot, And then I showed the Queen's Gambit. When she looks up at the ceiling, she's playing the whole game out of her head before she makes one move. And that's what I encourage people to think like this. I said, things are about to change in a profound way that you never imagined. And if you're thinking about the next move, you're late to the party already because your opponent is planning out 8 moves before they make one. So you've got to know, if I do this and they do this, I'll do this. If I do this and they do this, I'll do this, 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 and this. You've got to be thinking like that. Mm-hmm. And my speech this year will obviously reflect that was well timed. The biggest distributor in the world of trading cards was cut off by Fanatics. You understand this requires the greatest pivot in the history of the hobby right now. The greatest single pivot has just been thrown into play. If anyone in the world ever had to pivot, it's those guys. And this is what we're dealing with. So stores, breakers, all the people who are on the service side of the industry, they need to be thinking so hard because things are going to continue to change in a profound way. And so I think that's what's going to be interesting, is just to continue to communicate this, because I just want to beat people over the head. And I want to say, you're not getting it. You're not doing what you got to do, because you're going to get left behind. Fanatics doesn't need people who are going to put stuff on a shelf and expect it to sell.
What's interesting is I live in the middle of LA, which is big city, resources, all the money, all the ideas, everything possible. And when I think of Fanatics, I think of, oh my God, this is like big city, all the resources, all the ambition, and Panini, or the current, Panini Tops, whatever, as just like the status quo. Everything is good. Everything is fine. And now the big topic is Panini being bought by Fanatics. We're just dissolving, and with Fanatics taking over sooner than expected. Is that something that you anticipate yourself? Is that something that you and Leaf is preparing for, or preparing to pivot in whatever direction that you feel like you need to, based on what's coming next from Fanatics?
And then also on the back of that, Brian, too, do you look at kind of Michael Rubin, those guys, Fanatics, as competitors, or is it more like a partnership? You guys are kind of all in it. You're both manufacturers. How do you kind of view that whole bit?
I'll take the last part first. When I first started in this business, I was a bull in a china shop. I went for the jugular. I'd try to take people's knees out. I'd sign exclusives to screw people. I'd put down all the flaws with the other companies, because that built my company up, because I was doing it better. But then I realized that was absolutely the wrong approach. Because if you're trying to promote the China industry, you don't want to be a bull in a china shop wrecking China all over the place and showing you have no regard for it. You should be looking to build the category. So number one, I became the friendliest competitor ever to Panini and Topps. I really have. So much so that an exclusive player I have that is world class, there is a high probability I'm going to help facilitate the other companies getting my exclusive player, because it's the right thing to do for the industry. Now, this is so counterintuitive, because who spends a bunch of money for an exclusive to help their competitors?
Someone that understands a rising tide.
But the thing is, at the end of the day, you can be competitors, but you're all on the same team, in the sense that we all have a livelihood here, and I hope they have the same love and passion for what we do that I do. And if they have those things, we're on the same team, even if we're not on the same team. And you will find me at the summit talking to the Panini guys, palling around with the Topps guys. They're great guys. Now, Upper Deck, we're having to rebuild, but we're starting to we were in a lawsuit for 4 years. We've just started rebuilding our relationship. I spent an hour talking to Mike Phillips at the, I forget what it was, maybe the Last Industry Summit or whatever it was, the national one in Atlantic City, whatever. I talked to him because I'm like, we can be friendly. We had a 4-year lawsuit, but guess what? That's behind us. That was just business. Now we're moving on. We all have an interest. That's why I never put down those other companies now, because we're all trying to build the industry up. So with that being said, I would consider Fanatics a competitor. And I would consider Michael Rubin and that team, and I know a lot of that team pretty well, I consider them friends. I consider them someone that I have a respect for what they've done in other businesses. And when they tell me that they respect what I'm doing and the fact that I've taken something where every other company like me has failed and I've managed to turn it into a company that does 100 million in sales and makes enough shekels I don't have to miss a meal. We've managed to build something real where every other company like us has failed. When they say they respect that and they see creativity and things like that in what we do, that's powerful. My friends at Panini will tell me, you do a great job of this, 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 and this. And also, you guys do a great job when people are trying to lynch you. You're doing a pretty good job overall. Could some things get better? Absolutely. Guess what? I can do some things better. And Fanatics will have lots of things initially they don't do perfectly, but they'll do it. They're going to build this category because they're right about one thing. The addressable market for cards is so much bigger. We put out a 3-card set of Queen Elizabeth cards this week on our website. And we're selling hundreds and hundreds of sets, one set at a time, to people all over the world. I guarantee half these people have never bought a card before. So I know with Fanatics marketing muscle, they will be able to reach people that have never been reached. Now, why would I ever not be rooting for them? Because the fact is, they're going to help raise all ships that are left, and there will probably only be 1 or 2 ships left. And at the same time, I think it's in their interest to support me because they need 1 or more healthy competitors. Because there are concerns in legal arenas that could arise should there not be any competitors in the marketplace with any meat at all. So I think us being where we're at now, and we don't have aspirations to be 5 times the size we are. We're happy where we are. We've got a great thing going, and we're pivoting because we are very guilty of something you said, Brad. You said we all fall into the status quo kind of thing. Guilty as charged. The last 3 or 4 years, we've cookie cuttered like draft pick products because how easy is that? We're making money hand over fist. We just make the same thing every year and just like collect the checks. Guess what? Draft pick products are dead. We're not making them anymore. Starting with baseball, we're now making baseball products. Hall of Famers, legends, big hits. It's not all about rookies anymore. Next year's football won't just be football draft. Next year's basketball won't be basketball draft. The draft pick products, as we always made them, they got to go. Because we've got to pivot and better address what our customers want. And we made too much product on a lot of products this year because we let the distributors and the dealers have whatever they wanted. Well, if you go to a bar and a guy's got a drinking problem, he may end up in the river with his car, but not before he has 32 drinks. And the bartender can't cut him off and say enough is enough. We were making enough product. Then we're guilty. And so we've been guilty more recently of letting people order whatever they wanted. And so again, these are the things where on the other side, everyone thinks that we're all out to get each other and that I hate Panini and Panini hates Tops hates Fanatic, whatever it is. Upper Deck, we all hate Upper Deck and this. Everyone thinks that. Do you think Tom Brady really hates Aaron Donald because Aaron Donald smeared him a couple times? He doesn't hate Aaron Donald. He has an incredible, healthy respect for Aaron Donald because he's a stud. And Aaron Donald says he might be getting a little older, and Brady's my favorite player. He's getting a little bit older, but you got to respect Brady's game and his ability to game manage and be cool as a cucumber. So we have that same healthy respect in the industry. And I'm so glad you gave me this venue to say it because I never really get to say that. People on the other side of the screen or not in the rooms in the back, they just don't know what they don't know. And so I think I love the opportunity to share that we all like each other. When we see each other, it's like I give hugs to these guys, or I give them 5, or we dab each other up or something, whatever you call these things where you slap hands down. My daughter calls it dabbing up. But whatever it is, we do this because we all are in the same team long term. We all want to see the industry succeed, and we're all passionate about what we do, I think.
I think we should go ahead and just dive right into the Panini Fanatics talk. This has been talked to death for the last, all year of 2022. Is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? It seems like a foregone conclusion. It doesn't look like Panini has any product coming out after October. Does that mean something? Obviously, maybe you can't say anything, Brian. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. But any thoughts you want to throw in on that front?
Just sit back and smile if you know.
Yeah, no, I would say let me tackle this in a couple of different ways. Number one, I think people who are reading in the release calendar, I think that's a mistake. Panini keeps that pretty tight, usually because I see their release calendar as they update it every time. they usually keep that about 30, 45 days out. So like the tightness of that calendar, that's not a concern. That would be a knee jerk that means something. Now, the reason you think it means something is because something may be going on. I sent a tweet today, and this is all I can really say formally on it is, and I think my tweet said, just because there's smoke doesn't mean there's fire. But when there's fire, there is always smoke. So you can read into that what you think, but when there is fire, there is always smoke. And so, again, I don't really care if Panini does something with Fanatics, whatever that could look like. If they do, that's super. It makes me the number 2 company in every space. I'm good with that. I'm great being the number 2 company in every sport. I'm great with that. Perfect. Sounds great. Sign me up. If they stay separate, I have healthy, positive relationships with everyone. I'm very great with that too. I think it can be an incredible opportunity for the Panini guys if it does happen. I think they're doing a fantastic job on their own. So whether I know or not, doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we're all going to find out in the next whatever amount of time. And I don't think we're going to find out next year. It's either going to happen or it's not, whatever it is, sooner than later. And we'll see what it is. But the fact is, I can tell you, I'm rooting for my friends at Panini. And almost every person in that building is I consider them a friend. I like every one of them that I know. And I'm rooting for the Topps and Fanatics team because I know 50 of them. And between Fanatics and Topps, they're good people. So I'm rooting for them. Whether they get married or not, I don't really care. I've got to worry about Leaf and my positioning and my reaction and how I'm going to not pivot in a negative way, but more in a smart positioning way to make sure I maximize my opportunity. Because if there is a marriage, it's an incredible opportunity for us. Not to try to get 5 times the size we are, but to really hone down our niche in the marketplace and say Fanatics is going to do a phenomenal job of making this range of items. But for everything else, there's Leaf. And we can do every space. And so that's where my pivot's going to come.
Yeah, one question I've got, this is kind of a supply chain question that it just popped in my head, but I would also think that there's a lot of value to your company just based on the fact that you have printing. You have the ability. I think people, and maybe I underestimate too, just it's, I think the average person is kind of like, why is it so hard to get product out? Why is it so hard to like aren't there printers in the world? So I mean, how much does that play in as far as, the release calendar and all that, the supply chain stuff? Is that manufacturers dropping the ball, or is it simply that there's just not those companies just aren't available? I mean, like, what is the reality with that?
Well, the problem with trading cards is that, first off, printers hate trading cards because it is so complex. There's almost no other product they make. Like when they make boxes for Microsoft for the new software, not that anyone buys software physically. I guess you download it all. But if you were to buy something in a box in a store, the condition of the box being gem mint is not critical. Cheerios has probably never sent boxes back because the corner has a tiny touch of white on it. So, this business is very different. Manufacturers reject jobs over the tiniest stuff because we do nitpick it. Sometimes things we can't control. It is paper after all, but that's a hassle. Building game used cards is a disastrous hassle. If we could get rid of that, it'd be a lot easier to do business in this business from a supply chain standpoint. But very few companies are really good at taking the memorabilia, cutting it, maximizing yield, maximizing quality of the pieces, mounting, building, spacers. That makes it so much more complicated. So you can't just go to a printing company and they print cards. I wish. But you want to print on chrome or metal or whatever, prism, whatever they call it. You want to print on, you want to print on these other substrates. You want to print ultra thick cards with pieces of shoe in it. No one can do this crap. There's 3 or 4 people that can do it in the whole country. So that's where when they all rely on 1 or 2 big companies. But instead, we have taught small companies how to do what we need done. And we've locked up those facilities long term so that we are set. We are great. We have been I think we've had 2 true supply chain issues total. But most of it, we've had paper the whole time. We bought paper when everyone else was panicking for paper. We had plenty of paper. We even sold some to other people because we had extra, because we had some foresight. But again, it's not just the supply chain of printing and cutting and all these things. It's also the players. Like when COVID was going on, some players just weren't doing stuff. When the player goes to camp, they're not signing now. These players tell us to screw off. Once camp starts, they'll tell us to bug off. And if you haven't got all your autographs, You know, what are you going to do? Put out a product with 30% redemptions? No, you're going to fight to get autographs until you get it down to a smaller number. And trust me, there's times where I bet my competitors wish they could put out a product with 25% redemptions. It'd make life so much easier. But instead, they'd rather be 2 months late and have 10% or 5%. You know? So I think that's where supply chain is much more complicated than printing and cutting. But you're correct. When one facility is responsible for 2/3 of all production in this space, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's risky, and there's a lot of potential issues that come with that.
Well, and I guess I'm just trying to figure it out. If Fanatics wants to 10x the hobby, and they've also, there's been a lot of talk about we need to have various levels of cards as far as low end, mid end, high end. To me, it sounds like a lot more production, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you've kind of got it mapped out right. But how are they going to be able to do that properly if they don't acquire, companies that already kind of have the ability to print that sort of volume? I guess is kind of what, I don't know, or maybe over time they build it out. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think in time they could, but the fact is, like, there's a factory in Mexico now that's being built out that will be able to help a lot. But I think the biggest challenge, and what we don't know yet, and again, we don't know what we don't know. Fanatics is pretty good at holding things close to the vest. Are they really going to make a lot of low-end products? Or is it going to be blaster boxes of high-end products? A lot of people are optimistic and they pray and hope that prices will come down due to this. Mm-hmm. You can't pay players record prices, give them a percentage of the business, outbid everyone else in the world, and do all those things and spend all this money on marketing and lower the prices and lower the production. That's not happening. Now, what will happen is stores and distributors and dealers may start making a lot less money on those sales. No one's going to get rich in the middle anymore. But the question is, should anyone have ever gotten rich in the middle? I don't know. That's an ultimate question. The good news is we're not raising our prices. We're continuing to deliver value. We just signed probably 4 of the biggest names in the world in their various fields that we haven't announced yet that are phenomenal. So we're still going after top athletes and celebrities that no other company can get. So, I'm comfortable that we'll keep doing what we've got to do. I do think Fanatics will be great for the business. I do. I think they can be, as long as they don't use a heavy hand in a way that turns a legal monopoly into an illegal one. As long as they stay on the right side of the line, I think this could be a phenomenal opportunity for the hobby. But I think dreaming that prices are going to come down, dreaming that you're going to be able to just go on their website and buy whatever you want, whenever you want it, like, that literally is dreaming. Like, that's never going to happen. You have to know this. You can't pay everybody record amounts of money and then lower the prices by 50%. That's counterintuitive.
Well, I think the other point too is when people are used to paying $800 for a box and they've gotten comfortable at that price point, you don't want to then lower it. It's better to just add more value to that box and keep that price the same versus, now you're going to get used to $400 a box. And then if you ever raise it again, now there's going to be this like huge complaint. So it's like if prices are high, kind of milk the fact that people are used to it, but what other values can you throw in? And then of course, Fanatics has all these other businesses involved. But I want to ask you, Brian, because I don't know if there's been a company that has the ability to market the hobby the way Fanatics does, because they're going to have to market the hobby for them to get their return on not only cards, but the gambling stuff they're going to do, the memorabilia, whatever else.
They're the best. They're the best at this. They're the back-end engine for every college's fan site. For all these things, they're the back-end engine. Like, I mean, honestly, I saw someone in the chat say, hey, Brian, Fanatics should get you over there. You know what? I would, even though I know it would probably be a different environment for me, I honestly, seeing what they have possibilities of doing, it gets me. I'm not going to go. We're not doing a deal with them. We're not going there. We're going to be competitors and friendly competitors, but we're going to be competitors. But I will tell you, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that it kind of jazzes me, the idea that we could try to change the world in this space, not the real world, because, I mean, really, we make things that really in the world, they're relatively insignificant outside of ultra high income countries like ours. But we could change this world and these things that matter to people and bring them joy or excitement or whatever it does. We have an opportunity to profoundly change how that works. And they're only going to get one try to do it right the first time. And I pray they do it. And if they ever want to just call me, they don't have to buy me to call me. They can pick my brain all they want. I'd be happy to talk to them because we can do something really big here. This could be a really positive step for the hobby. It really could.
Well, okay, so I'm excited for a couple of reasons, just because I believe it's like a rising tide lifts all ships, and everyone is kind of relying on Fanatics to market for eBay's sake and Leaf's sake, and like they could indirectly bring business to and viewership or whatever to everyone involved. Because one of the complaints I had was I had to learn about this hobby from Gary V. I had to learn about this hobby from Gary V in late 2019 because none of the current companies were marketing, and none of them were, I'd say, big enough to spend the money to market to me directly. Panini wouldn't have made as much sense to market to me if the card prices aren't that high, and then I'm really going to be supporting eBay. eBay wouldn't really make that much sense because I'd have to get in the hobby and buy from Panini or the card shop. And now I feel like there's a company that has enough stake in the hobby to market for the entire hobby because they're going to receive the benefit, and then everyone else will indirectly receive it. So that was just one thing I always thought back to, is like, why did it take Gary V to tell me about this when I've been looking for this for years, not knowing it existed? But two, where do you see the expansion, like the potential being the biggest, whether it's overseas, whether it's a certain sport, a certain niche? If Fanatics says we are going to put millions of dollars on spreading this, what do you think grows the quickest, the quickest and by the most in the shortest amount of time?
I think the first step really is educating. What I've always said is the minute you get someone to get their arms around the idea that a card has value, just that a card is not just a piece of paper, but it has value. As soon as you get them there, there's like 50 different ways they can become part of the evolution. They can just buy cards they like of their team at the stadium in packs. They could become an investor. They could go on these break channels because it's the entertainment. They could straight up use it as a gambling mechanism, even though I don't promote that. There's so many different ways they can become into the space if they can just get their arms around a card is worth something. And we're doing that. We're teaching people. The TV's telling them. When Michael Rubin's on CNBC, but even before him, when Ken Golden sells this card for this much money and this much money and that, it's coming around now. People are getting it. So what I do is I look and I say, yes. One thing you did say is we're all counting on Fanatics to grow this market. Well, two things. If you're a store, breaker, internet retailer, any of these things, and you're not investing in growing the market, I don't believe, I'm not sure Fanatics needs you. And if I were Fanatics, I might really reevaluate those relationships. But frankly, I don't think you're going to be around. I think they're going to want partners who are really contributing. Otherwise, you really don't serve a purpose to them. But
Brian, how much do you think it matters? Because you hear there's kind of two sides to the, there's breakers that might be controversial, but they've got big audiences. And so, how much of the kind of the big audience thing, how much do you think that's going to play into who gets to partner with Fanatics? I mean, do you think they're going to be picky, I guess, in the sense that like, hey, we don't like that, you're doing this or that? Or do you think it's going to just matter more of like, hey, they've got a big audience, they're a part of the group, they've got reach?
You're starting to tread on my speech for the summit. Because, and I promised Beckett I would not give any preview to it because it's a different speech than I've ever given. The topic is, you're getting really close to the topic, so I got to kind of steer away a little bit and not give my full opinion. But I will tell you that what I've seen in life is when satellite radio first started, just going from channel on Sirius from 100 to 130, you would hear Howard Stern.
Yep, Howard Stern.
You would hear People Radio. You would hear Bravo Radio with Andy Cohen. You'd hear CNN. You'd hear Fox. Forget politics. You'd hear all these different things. And then you realize that consumers are fed in different ways by different things in different places in different times. And the key is going to be for there to be a wide assortment of experiences that cater to whatever it is that catches a guy's eye or a girl's eye, or whatever it is that catches their attention. And I think that is, and again, I'm getting really close to my speech now, a goal that the hobby has to have. And I'll be honest, most nights when I work at home, on my phone right here next to me, I have backyard breaks on most nights because I find it, sometimes a little crazy, but I admire the hustle. I think, I got to be honest, I find it somewhat entertaining. I really do. But I also turn on late because that's a different experience. you know? And so I think that's the thing is you can have a wild man rap in the background saying words that I would kill my kid if she said them, or you can have people taking their shirts off, or you can have maybe a little drier, but a very professional presentation. I believe the future is different. What we're investing in working on now is having celebrities break with us and bringing Floyd Mayweather on to do a break with us. How many people log into any of these streaming channels if I bring Floyd Mayweather on to break a box or case? People are going to break the thing. Like when Post Malone breaks Magic on whatnot, he gets 50,000 people there. So we know what it takes. And Fanatics also knows, and they're great athlete relationships. If we can get athletes and celebrities to buy into categories like that, who knows? Maybe someday you're turning on a cable TV station and watching breaks on television with high production value where Giannis is sitting there breaking, or Kevin Durant's breaking, or Derek Jeter, or Aaron Judge. And it's a high presentation selling commercials. I mean, I've seen much worse on ESPN7. I know I have. So I know this could really be a prime time thing.
Well, and that's where, like, for manufacturers, including Leaf, really, one thing that I think would be awesome to see in the future is when you have exciting new product releases. And I thought about this for Zero Cool, for Fanatics, for anybody, having some sort of a YouTube event, an event around it, some sort of, a big announcement where you are doing a break of that new product, or, showcasing that new product, and maybe having a kind of in the same fashion. I know that, the Gary V Friends cards with Zero Cool, it was controversial because it was V Friends cards, and some people are not into it. That's fine. I'm not into it either. But the thing that they did, though, that I liked was they actually had Gary V there opening the product, talking about the product. It was announced in a way where it was live. There was an event around it. So I would like to see manufacturers. I think that'd be a great thing if they could.
Well, and I saw a comment by Brett S that you just put on the screen, and they were like, with the events like these in the decline, why would anyone want to see? Why would there be a celebrity for markets and cards or breaks? Let me tell you something. The thing about streaming that is very different than anything else. During the last Oscars, I tried to type on my television to interact with Brad Pitt, but he didn't reply. But the thing is, on streaming, and this is why in Japan and in China, these places in Asia, online streaming retail is a huge thing, because it's like QVC or HSN on steroids, because you get to interact with the host in a real way. They can see your comment and react on screen to feedback from consumers in a way that traditional television can't. And so when you now bring Floyd Mayweather on and we're getting questions on there, and while we're breaking, I'm going to say, hey, this dude in chat just asked a great question. You collect anything, bro, or is it just money? You keep all the stuff from your fights because you're going to cash in someday, or because you're really going to care when you're an old guy not fighting anymore to check out this stuff. That is priceless interaction that you're not going to get on HSN or QVC or Shop at Home back in the old days where the guy's screaming. These things, the world is changing, and you've got to adapt to. And again, it's social. The reason you needed Gary V was because social media has taken over the world. Because that's how most people learn about everything now, is social media.
Yeah, that video stuff.
Americans have not watched a news broadcast in the last year on anything but CNN or Fox. They haven't turned on a local news in a year. I bet half of Americans have not watched a local news.
Yeah, true.
I mean, Joe Rogan opening cards would be more popular than a lot of these people. So, I mean, like you're talking about, Brett, I know you mentioned celebrities and certain things on decline. Isn't baseball on decline? I mean, aren't there like major sports on decline? Like there are
watch that stuff sometimes.
Logan Paul and Jake Paul doing things together, having a series of cards would draw in a new demographic. So, I mean, like that's my surroundings here in the middle of LA, is just everywhere is a billboard for some sort of show, some sort of opportunity. I want to ask you, Brian, because Leaf actually has celebrity cards, which sometimes I'll actually find cards on Comp C and go, oh my God, I didn't know this even existed. But I get more excited about Hugh Jackman as Wolverine than Wolverine the cartoon, because I watched the X-Men movies from 2006 onwards, and I like the Avengers movies. I'd love to see an Entourage set, because that was one of my favorite shows. What's the future of celebrity cards with Leaf, or what kind of products are you seeing that you would like to see more of based on demand, or you feel like trends are taking your products in a certain direction?
Well, I'll say our Pop Century product, which is basically anybody famous in any field from the last 100 years. That product really is a staple in the hobby now that people eagerly await every year. And it releases at the National. And every year, people you have no idea. I probably get 100 emails a month from people who either have suggestions for a checklist or, they can't wait to tell me how much they love the Billy Crystal Meg Ryan. I had a woman email me the other day and said that card was a dual autograph of Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. And she said she got it in a pack and she could remember her moaning in the restaurant when she saw that. Or someone pulled the Sandlot card signed by all the kids and they had some feeling. Or they saw Kit Harington and Amelia Clark dual sign card. And they remembered season 4 of Game of Thrones when Jon Snow, that's the thing. And so I think we have done a really good job of grabbing great names that evoke emotions, not just new pop stuff, but Little Orphan Annie and the guys from Different Strokes and, people, the Beaver. Beaver and Wally have signed cards together plenty of times. Now, obviously, we lost Wally to Tony Dow, but we're constantly bringing huge, and then we get huge names. We had Donald Trump signed for that set on card. Kim Kardashian signed for our set. First Kardashians, right around the time. I predicted Spectrum, I think just a little bit before, but we had on card Kim Kardashian. We've had Harrison Ford a bunch of times. Obviously, he signed other stuff, so it's not that big. Britney Spears never had another autograph. I'll give you a sneak peek. One of the guys I just signed, I got the autographs back yesterday, was Chris Pratt. He'll be in our next Pop Century set. We just made a deal for one of the biggest celebrities in the whole world. When the autographs come back, I'll tell people I pulled off the coup of all time. I got this. So this is a passion for me. I build Pop Century completely myself. I build the whole sets top to bottom, every cut, every ticket, whatever's in there, I build it all. Because that's a passion project for me. Because I believe, as Fanatics says, the addressable market for sports is massive. I believe the addressable market for entertainment cards is massive also. The only difference is the money's never going to be the same there as it is in sports. Because, again, we've trained people to buy $800 and $1,000 boxes, $5,000 boxes, $2,000 boxes. I think in the entertainment space, it's going to be more single card driven, which is why you'll see we have a new initiative starting in a couple of weeks where we have Pop Century influencers that'll be on our website.
Dude, I love that.
One of the first autograph we're putting up is Jake Paul. We have a deal with Jake.
Nice.
But Jake Paul's our first. But I can tell you that we are signing deals with some fascinating pop culture influencers, personalities. And I think what we're going to find is, just like we're saying, athletes have this ability to help grow things. And Fanatics can spend this money and do these things to grow things. My goal is when I have, let's say, a person with 10 million followers on Insta tweet out, look, I got my first ever card, go check it out. Besides the fact that I'm going to sell a ton and probably make a little money in the process, more people are going to see that Insta post from a smoke show that's a gymnast in Louisiana than is going to ever see any tweet from going to react to any other advertising in this business. I don't care who it is. So that's what we have to be thinking is, how are we going to grow this thing? Fanatics will do it with their backbone. This is my weapon. My weapon is the ability to be creative, stealth, act fast. I can sign a person and have cards ready in 7 days. They can't do this.
Brian, what about Leaf?
I got to take that, use it now to do my part to grow something really cool here.
What about sports card content creator autos?
It's recommended. It's recommended.
Comes back and he's like, everything's selling great except for the sports card content creator. That stuff's just sitting on the shelf.
And we only printed 4 boxes.
Here's the best part. We are going to do online also on our website, hobby influencers. And our goal here is to go to the backyard and get 2 or 3 of their personalities. To go to Layton and get their couple of personalities. To go to, again, I don't know if Topps, Panini, Fanatics, I don't know if these guys will participate, but I'd definitely do an opportunity to put, Michael Rubin on a card.
Sports Card Dad might participate.
Or David Lyder, or Clay, or any of these guys, But here's what's cool though. Imagine you guys have cards on our website and you have your first ever cards. We give you some copies for being part of it, but it's going to help us because you're going to direct traffic to us and it creates more awareness of you, because I've always said trading cards are the best advertisement in history. There's no other advertisement with information on the back that people save. Not only save, they throw away magazines and newspapers. They save these cards and treasure them. But not just that, they actually pay for the advert. It's like the NASCAR guys that wear these jackets with all these ads. They paid money for that. They should get paid for wearing those billboards. but they're paying for cards that have information on the back. So how cool is it if people collect that set and we now push them to 100 different hobby influencers, whether it's their web channel or whether it's a charity that they like, or whether it's their personal Facebook because they need more friends. I don't really care what it is, but people who make a difference in this hobby, some of them will be popular and some will be unpopular. Could even be guys that talk bad about me. I don't even know if that matters. It's about people who have an influence in the business and recognizing that this collection of voices is part of what makes this special. Even if some of those voices annoy you, it doesn't really matter, because this is fun because of that. If we all thought exactly the same thing, how fun is that? For real, if we're really homogenized to the point where everything I say, you're like, yep, and no one ever disagreed, this would suck. It would really be boring. I'd move on to the next thing. But it's
very
the fact
boring.
that I have opinions that are kind of far out on some stuff, and people call me and say, hold on, I don't know about that. And we get to have a healthy debate and discussion. We're sitting here, we've been here an hour. It didn't feel like an hour, but we're just talking.
No.
It's cool, right?
You twisted our arms, but you've got a deal, Brian.
Yeah. We will be on board with your
But I think it's cool.
creator.
Nathan Burns at Grand Slam. There's all these guys, the guys from Blowout, David Adams, Steel City, these great hobby internet retailers. These are some of the guys with the best stores in the country. I think it's really cool to celebrate all these people in the hobby. And maybe someday it leads to a true hobby Hall of Fame. Like where we really recognize not people like me. We were like 5 classes down the line. I'm talking about the guys that created this business. Jefferson Burdick, Dr. Beckett. There's so many guys in the food chain that did things that set the stage for all the things we enjoy now. And to a large extent, if I ask people who Jefferson Burdick is, they look at me like I'm an idiot. They think he was a president, maybe. But this guy was the cataloger of all things. He
started it.
Without him, we don't have catalogs. Without Dr. Beckett taking it to commercialization, we don't have it hitting newsstands every month. Without David Hall and PSA doing grading, we don't go down this road where people can have some confidence that what they're buying is real. And to be able to honestly evaluate stuff without a dealer saying, oh, it's Gary Met, but it's really X-Men. There's been a lot of innovations down the line that we don't recognize those people for paving the way for us to become successful, rich, fun, happy, joyous, whatever we are, whatever you fit in this, even if you're a collector, you're just happy and you enjoy it. All that was made possible by a handful of guys and then continued by Victor Schaefer, who's at Fanatics, who innovated things at Press Pass, First Game Used Card Center. Some of the innovations we've done, innovations guys at Topps and Panini have done. There's a lot of people who've really changed things. So by recognizing people like you guys who are out in front of social media and who aggressively pursue discussion, how do we not celebrate that the same way Jefferson Burdick's catalog was out of date as soon as he died, because he didn't keep going after he died. It's like he made a great contribution, but it's not ongoing. So we all have our role in this long rope of life, and that role in the hobby part of it should be celebrated all the way down the road. And so I think celebrating the people who are doing great things right now, and even people who are controversial but are part of the fabric of what we are, that's cool. Right?
Brad, we need to have Brian on every week. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. I don't know about you.
You can try. If you want, Dustin, you can try right now, Dustin.
I used to go on every show everywhere, and then I realized that, at some point, I'm just going to say the same thing. So, if I do Jeremy Lee's show 3 or 4 times. I think I'm the guest he's had the most. But 3 or 4 times a year, I do his show. But it's just every so often, there's just enough stuff to talk about that it's worth talking about. And I know I've talked a lot here. And again, because there's a lot going on that people don't see, like you told me pre-show, what's going on behind the curtain. A lot of people don't think like we do behind the curtain. But I think long-term, honestly, someday down the line, I'd love to come on and not even talk about Leaf or just talk about products. What'd you think of this? Oh, because again, I'm the only CEO that really is a collector of all companies' products. I mean, today I bought 3 boxes of Champions Metal or whatever it's called, the Skybox Champions from Upper Deck. I even bought a Marvel box on their website, through the e-pack. I never bought e-pack before. But so I buy things, and part of it's market research, but part of it is I like this stuff. So it's cool sometimes just to talk about cards. Never mind these big picture, what's moving and shaking and what's going on. Sometimes it's just cool to sit around and talk about cards. I always thought at the national it would be for 20 guys that are hobby influencers to sit around and bullshit. That'd be so great. I never get invited to those because I guess they think I wouldn't come. But like,
You have
that's
too many
cool.
good things to say outside of that we want to milk you for that.
That's what it's like. I meet the parents. I've got nipples. Can you milk me?
Horrible visual just entered my mind. Horrible.
And I do have, but yeah, that's not a pretty thought. But no, but it's great, and I love what you guys do, and I watch all the videos, and I do watch. I know it's not Sports Card Radio. I watch their videos, and again, some of it's entertainment, some of it's I like to see what people think is going on. Sometimes there's some truth to it, sometimes there's not, and it's kind of fun sometimes when you know the answer, but you hear people speculating. That's kind of fun, and so I listen to so much content because I even watch some of these blogs where people go around to shows buying and stuff because I'm a hobbyist, and that's what I do. I'm like the biggest buyer. I'm a huge buyer. So like when I go to the National, people follow me around because they know I'm going to spend massive amounts of money and I'm an idiot. But and we do it for repack products and things too. So we're going to buy a lot of stuff. But like I find all this stuff so awesome. So
how much do you think
content? My employees in my office hate it because they can hear it throughout the building. I'm listening to YouTube content all day while I'm working.
Brian, how much do you think, and I know we're kind of running over time, last question that I'll ask anyway, I'll let Brad go from here, but a lot of talk about how Dallas show, the National becoming more corporate, you're seeing a lot more corporate action, at these shows. And I've been to the Dallas show one time back in May 2021. That was when we didn't know if there was going to be a National in Chicago last year. So everybody rushed to that Dallas show. But I did hear a lot of people saying like, hey, this is turning more into like more corporate for sure. Do you see that do you think that's going to keep going in that direction? Or do you think it's right now we have a lot of startups and things and then it'll kind of fade out as companies prevail or fail or whatever?
Well, I think one thing is, and again, when we talk about pivoting, I think the show marketplace is going to pivot too. And again, I'm going to stay away from my speech topic, but we've been in investment broker mode for the last couple of years, where we're all investment experts and like helping people invest in stuff and speculate and all that. Like there's still going to be that, but we're morphing into something new, which is my discussion at the summit. You'll have to be there to hear it. But like we're morphing into a new stage of the hobby. Investment and stuff will be there, but that's not going to be the primary focus of the hobby going forward. And so I think shows they really do prosper more when that market is investment, speculative, money-making driven instead of where I think we're going. So you see the Dallas show was a little lighter. I wasn't there. I was in Vegas doing high-stakes fantasy football, but like I heard it was a little slower this time. I heard Nashville was a little slower. I'm starting to hear that everyone's not going to every show now because the market's not scorching hot like it was. It's good, but it's not scorching hot where things are going up so fast. If you're not at the show, you miss making thousands of dollars. And I think we're going to see shows become a little less important in the short term. And I think platforms where people buy and sell, especially if they can get the transactional cost down, will become more and more important. Because I think a lot of us have made enough money. We don't have to schlep around to every city every weekend. There are a lot of warriors that do that. I have a friend that calls himself the warrior who does that. He's great. But I think it's going to change a little bit. I think shows are becoming a little less important over the next year or two. And platforms that provide effective, efficient, and safe transactions will become more important again.
Okay. Last question.
Yes.
I mean, that's great stuff. And you could be as concise as you want because we want to honor your time. Bold prediction. We are 1 year away from today. It's this day, whatever, September, 13th, 14th, 2023. What is the biggest difference between now, between like that moment? Where's the hobby 1 year from now exactly today?
Man, I mean, it's very hard.
Just be concise in 5 words.
I don't want to give the answer that I'm supposed to give here. I know what I'm supposed to say. I don't want to give the answer I'm supposed to say. The answer I'm supposed to say is we're going to be bigger and stronger and everyone's going to be making money and it's just going to be the strongest market we've ever seen. Instead, what I'll say is this. The people who do not make the next transition away from putting stuff on a shelf and it's selling just because it's going up in value or being case flippers or whatever these people are, we're going to wash out a bunch of those people over the next year. People who don't serve a purpose in the secondary market will probably be gone. I believe that. I believe you're going to serve a purpose. And I'm not talking about people who invest in cards and go to shows and buy because they're really good. That's all fine. I'm talking about people who have businesses focused on the hobby. If you are not providing some real efficiency or value to the market, I think you're going to get washed out because no one's going to need you. And there's enough vaults. Please don't open any more vaults. There's more than enough vaults. There's more than enough vaults. And half the vaults that are coming out, the people with the vaults don't even have that great a marketplace.
I thought you were about to announce a Leaf vault.
Are you out of your mind? The Leaf vault's the safes in my office. I would never do that because you never make money. Because I don't think most of the vault platforms, PWCC is the best of the vault platforms. It's so easy to send your stuff for sale. They're getting tons of, it's just so efficient. They handle things perfectly. But half these places, their websites are not efficient for transactions. No one's going on there paying top dollar for stuff. There's very few transactions. The transaction costs can be low. It doesn't matter. How are these guys making any money? They're not ever going to make money. And so, again, until they provide real value by having a vault, and that's just one example, but it's all over the market. If you're a store and you're not doing anything but putting stuff on a shelf, and you're not your neighborhood Cheers, where when you come in, they say Norm or Cliff, you're not providing value. It's not an experience, which now I'm getting my Sunday speech, so I got to stop. But the point is, you better be someone that is making a difference in the business, or you will not be in the business. Because the people who are going to be running the show, when I say running the show, the biggest players in the game, they don't need you anymore. They can do what you do just fine. They just cut off the biggest distributor in the world of trading cards. Trust me, you're nothing special. You better be adding value. And that's what I told people last year, and that's what I'm telling them now. You better be adding value or there's no place for you. And so that's what we have to do as a category is think about, what is Brian good at? Do those things really, really well. I don't have to do everything. I just got to do what I do well, really, really well. You guys do what you do really, really well. Fanatics will do what they do really, really well. Upper Deck will be in the hockey world. They're going to do their job really well or pretty well, whatever it is. Everyone decides if I do it well or they do it well or they do it well. But we've just got to know what our role is, know our limitations, and be exceptional at things that are within our limitations. And I think the biggest thing, going back to your question, because I'm very good at getting off topic, the most important thing of all this is the way the market's going to look different. You better love this business or we're going to miss you. You better make a difference and provide some efficiency, effectiveness, or experience, or we're going to miss you. And that's the difference.
Can you video when you're giving pep talks to your team? Can you just put that on camera and then put that onto YouTube? Because I'll watch that. If I'm having a bad day, I'll just put that on and I'll be fine.
I've made them cry before. Literally, and I've cried. I start talking to them and I actually tear up. And I'm like,
can you make Dustin cry right now?
I think the point is, the biggest difference between now and a year from now, I think 10 to 20% of the stores in America will be gone. I think 20% of stores will close because when the easy money isn't there anymore, because the margins are going to compress some. The people who were relying on the lowest hanging fruit are gone. That's out. He's out.
Yeah.
The people who are, at every level, distributors who are not doing a great job of building the business will be gone. And some already are. And some of those people were actually doing a great job on GTS. They were doing a great job. I love them. They do a fantastic job. But clearly no one is safe unless you do a really exceptional job and they want you, whatever. So it's not just Fanatics making that choice. Customers will make that choice too. If your store is not a fun place to do it, I can go on right now and buy personal boxes on Loop. I can be part of group breaks on Drip or whatnot. I can go on to Leighton and do personals or breaks. I'm not going on to Platinum right now, but I can go on to these places and do these things. I don't have to go to the store 20 miles away to buy cards. I can experience it and have the stuff shipped to my house. I don't even have to leave the house, And someone just said smaller hobby, stronger market, stronger hobby. Sometimes you have to break bones for them to heal stronger. I think we may be in that right now. We may have to break a few bones to be at maximum capacity and maximum strength down the line. So the biggest difference we're going to see, I think there's going to be less people in the hobby. We will lose some people. Investors who are just investing because everything went up, goodbye. You're out because you already learned everything doesn't go up. You actually have to be smart and have some balls to hang on to some of this stuff and be a contrarian. And sometimes you're going to be wrong and lose everything you invest. But if you cannot be a lemming who buys into what everyone else is buying and you can find your own way, there is a lot of opportunity to make money in this business as a card investor, speculator, whatever you want to call it. So I think we're just going to see a thinner market because some people will leave, but I'm okay with that. We don't need every dealer that sells leave. We need the best 85% of them, 80% of them. And that's what I think we're going to have. And Fanatics may force that to happen faster than we would have. But I promise you, the hobby is a real place that's not going anywhere. It's been here for 40 years when it was not nearly as good as now. The products now are the best they've ever been in 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah, true.
They're the best they've ever been. People have experiences now opening a box they never could have dreamed of in 1972. Never mind
90 Don Russ, whatever.
And that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, so many positive things. So what I leave with is, and I know there's lots of people that will probably, I'm sure there'll be people that'll take this video and chop up things I said and say, what's wrong with this guy? He's a nut. But the fact is,
I hope they have that ambition.
But at the end of the day, if we do our part, love the business, and just don't take everything, and someone even told me this, don't take everything so freaking seriously. It's not the end of the world. Let it be a hobby sometimes, We get so caught up in it. It's only, and I do too, it becomes just a business. And it's not just a business. And when I do that, I go out to my hot tub and cool off or whatever you do in a hot tub, warm up. And I'm like thinking, man, I got to take a step back and quit treating it like it's only a business. Because every time I've treated it like only a business, I've cookie cuttered crap. Not crap, but I've cookie cuttered, taken shortcuts, and not constantly been innovating and constantly be thinking about what I can do to better serve people. And I think that's what all of us in your capacity, Michael, we have to do that. So that's it. I'm done talking. But I did great exchange. And next time I want y'all to talk more and me less, because I actually learn a lot by listening to people, because what people think should, in a big way, influence how I act, because your perception is sometimes more important than my reality. And so I love exchanging. And I'll keep listening to you guys independently, together, whatever. And then again, you're welcome to have me on another time if you think I can add any value, or
let's do it.
Yeah. And then this is so easy for us. We don't even have to do anything.
Yeah. If y'all are at the National, breakfast is on me. I'd love to just sit and talk cards, because I think you guys are great. And, sometimes I just like to talk cards and not business,
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll definitely have you back on, and I'll probably see you at Mint Collective. I'm skipping Industry Summit, but I love Mint Collective.
Yeah, I'll be there as well.
I love seeing the future of the hobby, the way they set it up personally.
Well, tell them you want me to speak there, because I think I can deliver a good one on investments in the hobby too. But I think they need to do. I think they need to do more TED Talk format at the Mint Collective instead of panels. People don't really like panels. They really want to hear people like, in 15, 20 minutes, I don't know if I can talk so little, but like try to add to like change the way people think about things. That's far more valuable than a bunch of guys, and you ask the same question to 5 guys on a panel and you get a regurgitated thing that changes like 1 iota between 5 people.
Yeah.
Right.
Who knows? Hey guys, thank you for having me. Sorry I talked so much. Hopefully it was either mildly entertaining, educational, or just a break from having to talk.
No,
it was all of it actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
And and next time we'll get Dustin to run through a brick wall. So that'll be the goal of next live stream when we
Can I have someone photograph it so that can be on his card? Like I'm not gonna put him on the card, just the outline of him through the brick wall, like on a cartoon.
Absolutely.
You actually haven't seen Dustin's picture that we already have saved for his NFT and his card. It's pretty epic. So I'll have Dustin send it over to you.
Give me a high-res image and we'll get this. We're gonna start that in January. But the key is going to be, there's going to be some people, like I'm not sure all my competitors will let me make cards with them, but I'd love to. I'd love to go back and find Don West, who was on Shop at Home, and put him on a card.
I would buy a Don West card. 100%.
I would love to find all the people that just for even a brief moment played a role. Mike Kramer from Pacific. And guys that for a brief moment were Big Bob. I think he's dead now. And Lud at ProSet's definitely dead. But finding some of these guys that were staples in the business over the years would be so fun,
That would be fun.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Brian, we respect your time. My bladder is about to explode, as you guys have
don't do it on
mentioned. No, I mean it's good for viewership, but I mean long term
we don't
health.
Want that. We don't want that.
Good. But guys, really appreciate it. There were a lot of really good comments and questions we didn't have a chance to get to, but we'll definitely have Brian back in the future, and we'll answer more of those questions. So, guys, have a great night. Brian, thank you so much. And
thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
See you next week.
You got it.
See you guys.